So basically, as you all know, blockchain, cryptocurrencies are one of the hottest topics today in technology. And the combination of AI and finance is something that's been around for a while. So we're going to talk a little bit about blockchain, the different use cases for blockchain, the different regulatory environment that entails, and discuss what is the role of AI and chatbots within this industry, and try to see if where it's going. So I will start by doing a short introduction of myself and what I'm doing, and then I'm going to let Jonathan do the same. So my name is Yaniv. I was the editor for Geek Time for the last 9 years. I now run a new startup called Cointelligence that does Bloomberg for crypto, which is basically financial, market, and network data aggregation in order to help investors and analysts make smarter decisions. Jonathan.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Irom, partner at GKH Law Firm in Tel Aviv, part of the corporate and international high-tech department. Over the past 3 years, we've been involved in representing blockchain companies in terms of ICOs, investment funds that invest in blockchain currencies and various exchanges that engage in blockchain. And I lead the practice at the firm. We also represent a few chatbot companies, so we're very excited about this conference and talking about the interplay between chatbots and blockchain.
So until the guy gets here, let's talk a little bit more on the financial or regulatory side of crypto. So the market is relatively young. It's very volatile. We're seeing a lot of currencies going up and down, many percentages all over the place. And one of the things that get asked a lot is, can there be a place for computers to start playing that? As we know, in the traditional markets, I don't know if you know, but 60 to 70% of the volume of trading in traditional markets is now being done with AIs and computers. And one of the claims right now is that the market for cryptocurrencies is relatively early, and since it's volatile and there's not a lot of data or a lot of volume that can be played with, then AI is still early to become a player in this field, at least in cryptocurrencies trading I'm talking about. What I want to understand is, when someone is talking about building a bot or a trading bot, we're starting to see that right now, or someone that just gives recommendations or signals. What would be, the legal framework or the stuff he would need to consider legal-wise in order to do something like that?
Okay, thanks. Currently, in most Western countries, the cryptocurrency markets are not regulated. They're regulated in the sense that anti-money laundering and money transmittal laws, but in terms of traditional laws that we're familiar with that relate to securities, whether it's issuing securities, ICOs, whether it's trading in cryptocurrencies, is not subject to specific regulations at this point. I think most people that are active in the cryptocurrency trading markets are aware of this, and there's a lot of press that's constantly being released about various market manipulations that occur in cryptocurrency markets. In particular, what are called altcoins, which are the smaller coins, not the coins that have billions of dollars of volume, but coins that have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of volume, are very susceptible to various market manipulations. So various market activities that would not be legal when trading in securities, just by virtue of the fact that the market is unregulated, gives people feel like they have a license to engage in various activities that relate to market manipulation, things called pump and dump, and things of that nature. I expect that during 2017 really saw the tremendous growth in the cryptocurrency markets, both in terms of market cap and in terms of the amount of coins that are being offered and traded. So I anticipate that in 2018 we'll start to see regulation in the US and in Europe and Canada and Israel that relate to trading in cryptocurrencies. And I assume that we're talking about actual trading as opposed to offering. I think that the regulations related to trading will probably be similar to the regulations that apply to trading in securities. One interesting thing to note is that there's a lot of arbitrage in cryptocurrency prices, particularly Bitcoin, because it's traded on multiple exchanges that aren't related to each other. And recently somebody pointed out to me that the arbitrage has been shrinking, and they claim that's mostly due to bots, because the bots look for the inefficiencies in the market and they try to take advantage of those inefficiencies, and that brings the prices close together, which long-term helps the market be more predictable and more manageable.
So one of the things that's interesting to see, if you look at the crypto economy as, a new step or a new evolution or a new asset class, is trying to understand, whether it happened before. One of the things that every economist learns in the beginning is that the economy works in cycles. So if we compare it to, let's say, 1929, the pre-birth of the public market as we know it today, where the market wasn't as regulated as it is today, do you see any kind of similarities, and can you expect the same kind of regulation to happen post whatever happens in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, so people often talk, one of the questions that we get at, we represent a lot of companies that are offering coins, what's called initial coin offerings. And one of the main questions that comes up when people are examining whether to issue a cryptocurrency is what laws apply to that issuance. And a lot of people in the crypto world say, this is a new asset class, we're new, we're completely different, no laws should apply to us, and let the market forces of the jungle kind of prevail. And I think that when we look back in history, as you said, the securities laws were adopted in the US, let's say in 1930, right? The Securities Act of 1930. Why were the securities laws enacted in 1930? Because in the early 1900s, there were a lot of bad actors on Wall Street. People would create fake companies. They would everything that we're seeing in the crypto market today was kind of done in the early 1900s. And the government realized that in order for a market to be healthy, and also for market participants, markets need a certain regulatory framework, they need rules, because people need to understand what rules they're playing by. And they, in order to kind of curb the volume of bad actors, they came up with the securities laws. And I think that we're seeing a parallel to that now, meaning the markets are growing, the markets have a lot of good players in them, but as an unregulated market, also an international market where you can't always necessarily put your hands on specific people because they might, A, the blockchain is anonymous, and B, they could be in other countries than where the enforcement needs to take place. There's also a lot of room for manipulation, and I think that that's going to drive the regulators to adopt regulations that relate to both offering cryptocurrencies and to the trading of cryptocurrencies.
So if we took that page out of the history book, let's try to take another from the technology history books. Systematic trading and algo trading, started happening in the markets as soon as technology enabled it, starting 80s, 90s. Today, as I said, we're seeing 60 to 70% controlling the volume of the market. Do you think that there is a place for automated AI-based trading in cryptocurrencies as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think that cryptocurrencies are one of the benefits that benefits in terms of algo trading that cryptocurrencies have over regular stocks is that they were born kind of on the network. So people that want to create artificial intelligence investing bots and things of that nature already have the framework, and they just have to connect with an API to an exchange, and they can start implementing their strategies. And one thing that we're noticing is with existing hedge funds and algo trading funds, there's a lot of interest in those funds to expand and create new methods for trading in cryptocurrencies using existing technologies, but also because the market is young, there's a lot of arbitrage, there's a lot of room for smart bots to get in there and find the market inefficiencies, and for hedge funds to use those in order to implement their trading strategies.
So let's talk chatbots for a second. I'm seeing Guy joining us, right? Can we get another mic? Yeah, thank you, Guy. Do we have another one? Yeah, okay. So we were just discussing the volatile network of the volatile market of cryptocurrencies, but I was about to ask, about chatbots. So one of the things about blockchain and crypto in general is that it's a great technology but its interface, its user interface is not very clear. It's not very usable to the average person. And as chatbots are what today we're seeing would be one of the future interfaces of working with technology, how do you see the connection between the two? I'll ask Guy. And you can introduce yourself beforehand because you weren't here when we did the introduction.
So first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for waiting. So my name is Guy Benartzi. I'm one of the founders of a project called Bancor. We were probably one of the better known ICOs of last year. And look, first of all, I'm a very big believer, obviously, in blockchain, but I'm a very big believer in chatbots for a few reasons. One, I think that conversational interfaces are the right mechanism for process-driven tasks, okay? And so if you need to take somebody through 20 questions or so, this is a very, very convenient interface rather than have just some giant form that they fill out, because you're also able, through natural language processing and other things, give them kind of customized, choose your own adventure, so to speak, right? And if you look at Bancor's product, and you can go to bancor.network, you'll see that aside from us being perhaps one of the only production-level products in blockchain, we use chatbots today. So we use it in a more limited sense on mainnet. You can sign up with your Telegram or Facebook Messenger or WeChat, and then we have a chatbot that kind of interfaces with you a little bit. You can query it and ask some basic questions. But if you actually look at our testnet, you will see a preview of what we're going to be doing with chatbots, which is you want to create your own cryptocurrency? You shouldn't need any technical knowledge. The chatbot will ask you a series of questions. At the end of those questions, you have your own token. You want to do an ICO? There's a new series of questions. At the end of those questions, you have an ICO. You need no technical knowledge to do what today is actually a fairly complicated task. So that's kind of a little bit of a preview of how we plan on using chatbots to lower barriers to entry in the blockchain space specifically.
And if we're talking about more specific use cases, I mean, have you already seen interesting startups that combine the use of chatbots and AIs besides you?
So I haven't seen so many chatbots yet in blockchain, because I think you have almost like two independent revolutions that are happening that are obviously can be interrelated, but they each stand on their own.
The technology one and the economics one.
Yeah, so chatbots are a new phenomenon, and another reason I think they're so great is that you guys probably know this. There's massive application fatigue. Okay, nobody wants to install an app anymore, and if you look at the funnel, right, you see massive drop-offs every time you need somebody to install it. But we all have an instant messenger, right? This is the killer app of our cell phone, right? It has 100% penetration. We use it more than 50% of the entire usage of the phone. And what I love about chatbots is you're able to piggyback on top of these existing apps that are already installed on the phone. You're able to send push notifications and kind of penetrate through the noise in a way that if you have to make your own app, it's not going to happen, right? So I think this chatbot revolution on top of existing IM platforms, it stands on its own. Blockchain stands on its own, and I think there's obviously a natural connection that we're going to see between the two.
Yeah, but there is another problem, especially in the blockchain ecosystem, the crypto ecosystem is using those instant messaging platforms, a lot. And you see many people who are active in this community that have a lot of groups and a lot of bots and a lot of things built into the app. I open my Telegram group in the morning and I have like 100,000 new messages. So it was meant to penetrate through the noise, but eventually it just disappears within a much larger noise. So how does that stand?
I'll give you maybe two examples that come to mind of really good uses for chatbots. So one is relevant to what the example you just gave. In our Telegram group, we have, 6,000 users. Some of my friends have 60,000 users in their Telegram groups, right? So one kind of obvious, simplistic use of a chatbot is somebody new joins the Telegram group. They're greeted by the chatbot. The chatbot shares with them the rules of the group, right? The chatbot does some of the functions that an admin would usually do, right? So this is kind of
like an IRC bot back in the 90s.
right. For those old enough here to remember that, right? So that's one use. But you know what? I'll tell you about another chatbot that I actually built as a side project, and I kind of forgot about it. And I checked with my buddy yesterday, and it turns out that he's still using it to this day. So a friend of mine is a well-known doctor in the country, and he suffers from the fact that, he has emails that he fills out every day from patients that are writing him stuff, and people are waiting in line, and the doctors are always running late. So just for fun, as like a side project, I made him a little chatbot. And the chatbot, all it does is if somebody cancels their appointment, it notifies the other people, right? That there's a slot that's open and that they can reserve it. Or if he's running late, just something so simple. He's running late, it lets the next people who have an appointment know that he's 10 minutes late, he's 20 minutes late, so you don't sit at the doctor's office, waiting for him. And we did this kind of just as a side project. And I talked to him a few days ago, and he told me that it literally changed his life. Like one day the bot wasn't working, and he collapsed under the workload. And it's so elementary. But and you can also ask the bot, where's the address and what's the number? Like, it's just like basic information, right? But even that was so deeply appreciated by the patients because they felt that somebody cares about our time, right? This doctor's modern. He's up to date with technology. I bet his diagnosis is also going to be more sophisticated, right? Like, it just had a really good effect, and it was such a simple project, right?
And leaving, the economic side, the economics of it aside for a second, but basically blockchain is a decentralized database. I'm oversimplifying for people who don't really know what it is, but it's a decentralized database. So what's a decentralized database got to do with AI? What's the use cases that are connecting between the two? I know, Jonathan, that you're working with a company that does something in the field, right?
Not exactly. We're working with a company called Chatbot that has one of the most popular chatbots on the internet, but they haven't reached the blockchain stage yet. I think when you talk about AI and blockchain, decentralized AI, people kind of think about AI monster that kind of grows itself and takes over the world and nobody can kill it. I think one of the things, when Guy was talking about chatbots that give push notifications, my first thought comes to mind, are we going to start seeing like ad blockers, or are we going to start seeing chatbot blockers that people are going to be like, I don't want to get all these push notifications and companies pushing their stuff at me. I'm going to start installing an app that blocks the chatbots. I think another interesting thing that we're seeing now are messaging apps that are doing ICOs. So there was Kik in September 2017, and now Telegram has a very...
Now Status.
So talking about the app fatigue versus the messaging app, everybody wants to be the new WeChat, right? They want to take the apps off your phone and put them inside your messenger, because you spend most of your time inside your messenger. Let's move the apps from the phone into the messenger, and let's create a token economy within all the apps in the messenger that can interact with each other. So that's a kind of interesting trend that's taking place right now.
So that moves us back to the economic side, right? So let's talk about Telegram, because that would be the easiest. Telegram is probably one of the most anticipated ICOs of 2018. Their purpose for, everyone who doesn't know, that's one of the most popular instant messaging apps, sort of the biggest competitor to WhatsApp. And they're now ICOing in order to build an economy around their messenger, around the instant messaging that allows people to send money, get money, provide services, and so on, all on top of their instant messaging platform. Basically, it's building their own, some would call it self-sustaining economy. That's at least what they're aiming for. The question is there an actual room for this? Because, instant messaging is great, bots are awesome, and I can understand where they are in that, specific ecosystem. But what does blockchain, or for that matter, having your own token assist in Telegram getting to where they want to go? Why can't they do this either with fiat money or, let's say, with Ethereum? Why do they need their own token?
So first of all, it's a great question, and we could talk about it for hours and hours. But I think that maybe the first thing to understand is that a token allows you to build a non-profit ecosystem with many for-profit players. Okay, so think of it as like the internet, right? When Microsoft tried to build the internet by itself, it was not very appealing. Even Microsoft, great Microsoft in their heyday. It's not very appealing to other people because it belongs to a for-profit, right? But the moment that it can be a non-profit and you can have many for-profit players, it removes a lot of conflicts of interest, right? So I think that what tokenomics is allowing us to do now with blockchain is apply this concept that was previously only available to nation states or maybe large airline conglomerates, okay? Where, in a nation state, you have the central bank, which supposedly, allegedly, is a non-profit center, right, creating the money. And there are many for-profit players. So when Apple is very successful in the United States, it actually raises the value of the US dollar for everybody else who's not Apple, who's building competitive, or non-competitive other products in the US economy, right? So I think that what you're seeing now in blockchain is the ability to apply those fundamentals not at the national level, but on specific verticals and ecosystems. Right? So that's what Telegram is trying to do with messengers. And I have to tell you, first of all, I love Telegram. Anybody who's been using Telegram for years knows that it's far superior to WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, WeChat. It's like at a whole different level. I think it helps to remain a young and independent company, right, to keep the innovation going. And this is not a small company, 200 million users, right? I can tell you their ICO, $2 billion, it's oversubscribed. I mean, I'm pretty connected, and I had to fight to allow them to take my money. So the people that should worry are Google and Facebook and the large players whose power comes from having the data sit behind a closed database. And I think that Telegram is going to eat their lunch.
Okay, that's an interesting statement. I'm going to hold you to that. So let's talk a little bit token economics, right? Let's think of some of the big chatbots that we know. What would you see as a valid proposition for ICOing a chatbot with a valid token economics?
So look, I think that first of all, there needs to be a reason why you have your own token, like you said, right? Yep. So I think that in the case of a Telegram or a Status IM or buddies of mine now, another great company, mainframe.org, about to announce a major ICO, I think that the first thing is you need to be trying to actually build an ecosystem around your token, right? So have something that is designed to be a platform for developers where they can build their own apps, or what we call in this space dApps, right? Like decentralized apps, and to have them be participants in this ecosystem, and to have the token be, number one, both the way that they can monetize, right, their app, their service, a way in which all the participants can have a kind of network effect, all right, from the monetization of each other's projects. And the other thing, of course, is that the token acts as a fundraising tool, right, a venture financing tool for the project itself, which then allows the project to hire people and pay salaries.
Yeah, but without an actual economics of the token, just as a funding tool, it doesn't stand by its own. Basically, if the token is not valuable, unless it's a security token, meaning it's equity or some kind of shareholder or voting right in the company, its value isn't sustainable unless it has a specific utility, right?
So it's generally a true statement, but just to show you where the lines get fuzzy, okay? So obviously you want to have, unique, authentic utility for your token, and the token needs to give you access to something, or it needs to have some kind of, inherent value for why it exists. But there are scenarios in which it could almost not have any unique value and still be viable. Okay, I'll just give you an example. All right, if I'm going to make, I'm going to open a pizzeria, okay, and I'm going to do an ICO. all right? And I'm gonna raise money to run this pizzeria. Okay, well, let's look at 1-2 years into the future, right? It's enough that I will say I'm going to accept only the token for my services, okay? I won't sell pizza in any other currency. I will only sell pizza for this token, right? That already gives the token validity. If an airline woke up tomorrow and said, I will only sell tickets for miles, okay? I will not sell tickets. You cannot buy tickets for dollars. You can go out, buy those miles with dollars, and then go buy the ticket with miles. That in of itself already gives the token validity.
But that doesn't make any sense. You know, if I can buy tickets for dollars, why would I go and buy miles, then buy dollars, or vice versa, and then buy the ticket? Because unless I have, you know, that's one of the problems that we're seeing in today's market, is that there are a lot of startups, a lot of projects that don't really understand the concept of tokening. Because one thing is the fact that it's an ecosystem, or it's a nonprofit with an ecosystem around it. And the second thing is that a lot of the ICOs we're seeing right now are what we call app tokens, where, you know, in the industry slang we call them shitcoins, where the actual use of the token doesn't make sense because no one really needs it. I could have paid for those tickets in dollars. I don't have real use case of buying miles and then buying
But at the same time, you know, one of the most profound things that you can do, you know how people always say, you know, you are what you eat, or you are the friends you keep, right? So one of the most profound things is, what currency do you accept, right? That's a very big statement, what currency you accept. Now, when we live in a world of monopoly currencies, and I don't say monopoly like the game Monopoly, I mean like literally a monopoly, right? There's one currency in each country, that's the national currency. You don't have freedom, you don't have choice. And not being able to choose the currency you use is very unfortunate, because it's a more significant decision than what vote you put in the ballot box. And so I think that we are now entering a world in which you're going to have a choice of which kind of value you choose. And the value you choose to accept for your services, for your labor, for your sweat, that is a statement. And if I decide that I want to accept the currency of an airline mile, okay, like of an airline operator, that's fundamentally different than saying I'm going to accept dollars, all right? Because essentially I'm supporting that ecosystem specifically, rather than supporting the entire U.S. economy. So I think that people are not really used to thinking about this as much. And look, I've heard people say shitcoins and all this stuff. Everybody who's in Bitcoin thinks that everything in Ethereum is a shitcoin. Okay? Everybody in Ethereum thinks that that one's a shitcoin. I think that let's wait a few years until we understand which of these were really shitcoins and which of these were simply new innovative models, for example, around open source services and other things that were simply not viable before token economics even existed.
So I have a legal note to follow up on that question. One of the things that I've recently learned is that in almost every modern country, there is an actual law that says that everyone that works in that country must accept fiat currency. That's where fiat comes from. So if I decide that I don't want to accept Israeli shekel anymore, and I only want to accept my token, am I breaking the law?
We received a simple answer out there, but I think that one of the things about blockchain-based systems is that they're not territorial. So if I'm offering, and in general, the entire concept of internet and e-commerce creates a situation where commerce is not subject to, is extraterritorial, it's not subject to specific jurisdiction. Like when I go to the post office in Israel to pick up a parking ticket I got, I see the entire post office is full of boxes from Next, right? So Israelis are shopping in England, they're shopping and when they shop in England, they're paying in pounds, and when they're shopping in Israel, they're paying in shekels. So I think the concept of constraining people to a certain currency just because they live in a certain location is not already the world's not there, and the whole concept of exchanging a certain currency for another currency and paying various fees on that is getting cumbersome and people are looking for solutions. I'm not as convinced as Guy that specific currencies are going to take over the world, but definitely enterprises that are, talking about Amazon and Google and Microsoft, all those companies that are kind of creating country-sized economies within their own company, probably do have the market power to impose a certain currency on their participants, just like a country has that power. And smaller apps probably don't have that power, but I think there are definitely bigger ecosystems that have the power to say, we want to work in our own currency, it's easier for us, and players would use that currency, just like the state, as you mentioned, has their ways of forcing people to use the state's currency, whether it's by forcing vendors to accept payment in that currency, and also by requiring people to pay taxes in the country's currency.
So I just got the line that our time is up, and I could have gone on for hours more, but I'd like to thank you both for coming, for joining us, and if we have questions from the audience, we have time? Oh, okay. So if we have questions from the audience, I'm not seeing a thing, so yeah. So the question was, I'll repeat the question. So the question was, if we're going to use a token or a coin for every app, won't we get flood of a lot of coins, and won't we be confused on how we work with each and what's the exchange rate and everything? Did I get it correctly? Okay.
So first of all, I almost feel like you crafted that question specifically for me. So look, I think that to enable the future that many of us see, and you'll look back at this a few years and either say that my statement was kind of, very wise or very foolish. But my guess is that a few years from now, there are going to be millions and millions of cryptocurrencies. Millions, not thousands. Today there are thousands. Millions. And you're going to see tens of thousands of ICOs around projects. Every single building is going to be tokenized and liquid. Securities will be tokenized. Every loyalty point program, every community currency, every Facebook group, every WhatsApp group, all right, every family, individuals. There will be, not millions, there will be billions of currencies in just a few years. All right, that's my theory. Now, you're right that it's a big problem in the current system using a bid-ask model to exchange value, because dollars and euros are not connected to each other with a programming language or a protocol the way computer networks are connected to each other with TCP/IP or HTTP. And you're right that the current system of bid and ask, which is a barter system, think about it. I don't come with my tomatoes and carrots to buy vegetables, right? I come with money, but there's no money for money. There's a barter system. When you exchange dollars for euros, you're bartering. Shares of Google for dollars, you're bartering. Bitcoin for Ether, you're bartering. So you can't barter with millions of currencies. Exchanges don't even list ICOs today anymore, right? So what are you going to do? So luckily, there is this solution called Bancor. And Bancor has taken the liquidity barrier that existed and reduced it to zero. The way that YouTube took the publishing video and reduced it to zero, or blogs took the publishing barrier and reduced it to zero. You don't need to own a newspaper. You don't need to own a TV station, right? And so Bancor invented the first automated market maker on blockchain that essentially, you can think of it, if a market maker is a taxi cab driver and a market taker is his passenger, Bancor invented the self-driving car. So goodbye market makers. And without the barrier to entry that liquidity requires today, to be liquid that you have, then it means that any currency is viable regardless of market cap. So every tiny currency, even $1,000 currency, all right, $1,000 market cap currency can be viable, connected to the entire world via Bancor.
You want to add something?
So I want to ask Guy a question, but somebody, aren't you concerned that if there are billions of currencies, the same thing will happen to currencies that's happened to the internet? There's going to be major consolidation, because I think most people don't want to live in a world where, if I live in a dollar system or a shekel system, I know what my money's worth, and I know more, there's inflation, but I know more or less what its purchasing power is. And if I have my own coin that can constantly be fluctuating, do you think that people are really ready to live in a system like that?
Yeah, so I think that, first of all, you're talking about also volatility, which is, let's treat that as a separate issue. I don't think all of these currencies will be as highly volatile as they are now. We're at the cusp of, a major change in human history, so there's a lot of speculation and a lot of volatility. But I think that when barriers to entry are removed, I think that from an end user perspective, it's going to be pretty seamless. You know, let's say I'll probably have my national currency, I'll have like my hobby currency, I'll have a currency for my face, I'll have a few currencies that are mine. You know, you'll have a different set of currencies even though we'll maybe both have shekels. My wallet will tell me the bottom line in whatever currency I'm comfortable with. So if that's dollars, I'm just going to see the dollar bottom line. And the experience itself will be very seamless. You know, when I go to the UK today and I run my credit card, I'm not thinking about pounds, right? I'm paying in shekels. Somewhere magically behind the scenes, it's converting to pounds. So I think as long as that experience remains, I'll take my little loyalty points, or I'll take my, you know, there was this currency in Israel called hearts for mothers, right? I'll take that, I'll be in Brazil, I'll buy something over there, that in the background it went through 4 hops and converted was a seamless exercise for me. But I think that you're going to see that people are going to want to divide up their labor to earn different currencies depending on their value system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Save.